And you're welcome back to the Pulse. Just before we get to our main stories, there's a bit of a breaking news for you because we're picking up information that the Galamsey kingpin, Aisha Huang, has been picked up in connection with some charges that were leveled up against her about 5 years ago in terms of selling the natural mineral resources of Ghana without the necessary license. It appears that 5 years on, the security agencies have been able to pick her up as we're learning that she may be arraigned for some fresh charges. Details coming up shortly, but let me bring in at this point Adib Sani, who's a security analyst, joining us via Zoom right now. Adib, thank you for your time. So this is a bit of a sketch news, but at least it's been confirmed now that the kingpin, as we know her, has been picked up. 5 years ago, she was nowhere to be found. It appears security agencies have found her. For you, what's your initial reaction to this development?
Well, like you rightly mentioned, information is a bit sketchy as of now. Because I still have some questions, running through my mind, where she was arrested and what happened to the deportation. Because so far as we are concerned, in May 2018, she was arrested and deported. So how come all of a sudden she's resurfaced only for her to be arrested? But that notwithstanding, I think it is a great step because one of the biggest challenges we've had to contend with in fighting the scourge of Galamsey in the country is impunity, because you have the who and who of the Ghanaian society being part and parcel of the degradation that they're causing to the environment, the water bodies, etc. And one of the issues that has come up over and over again is to what extent do we enforce the laws? To what extent do we hold people accountable of oblivion of their stature in society? To the extent that we have certain individuals from other parts of the world, in China, coming to destroy our water bodies. And at the point we even heard about the Chinese starting cocoa farming and all that, yet these people come and destroy our cocoa farms and nobody does anything about it. And I've always said, again, that the only way out is to ensure accountability, is to ensure that whoever is found culpable is dealt with according to the law. If not, we would keep seizing the excavators, and the same excavators would keep having its way back to the mining sites. And I've taken the trouble to go to the eastern region at a point. It was an eyesore, to say the least. And you see the excavators packed at the district assembly, at the police station, and the next minute you find those same excavators back, mining. So it's a good step. And I'm hoping that should be taken through due process, and this would also serve notice to whoever is engaged in it, whether you are a foreigner or whether you are a Ghanaian, whether you are a politician, that we are a country that is governed by the rule of law. And so much of the talk, now we're going to hold you accountable by your deeds.
In fact, initially when the story came up some 5 years ago, the challenge was that this is a foreign national coming from China. China is one of our major partners. And of course, part of the concerns was raised by Senior Minister Yao Safumafo, who talked about the fact that these are countries from which we get some official development assistance. So there's going to be a challenge prosecuting her now. You agree?
I'm sorry to say, but the comment by then Senior Minister was unfortunate because it only meant to embolden these wrongdoers. It only meant to suggest, so to speak, that we are a banana republic just by virtue of the fact that you're getting assistance from another country. Its citizens can come and do whatever they like. No, that is not how it's supposed to be. And I've also said it right from day one that we need collaboration with the Chinese, because there's absolutely no way a Chinese can come into the country unless through irregular means, without the Chinese embassy knowing. Okay, so if we had progressively collaborated with the Chinese, no Chinese citizen would come into the country without being asked what you're coming to do. Okay, so with help from the Chinese embassy, I'm sure we would have been able to mitigate what is happening. Unfortunately, we didn't see that. But we also needed to tread cautiously. So this doesn't look like an all-out war on Chinese citizens. No. It was far from that, okay? And it was far from maybe transcending into a diplomatic spat between the two countries, okay? The two countries needed to collaborate to stem the tide of galamsey in Ghana. So statements by the senior minister was neither here nor there. I mean, it was unfortunate, and I'm hoping that this time around we go beyond the talk and make sure that these individuals are brought to book. I'm yet to find out who arrested her, whether it's the police or whether it's the national security, because so far as I'm concerned, the national security is doing a great deal of work in that area, and I'm hoping that this time around things will change.
Obviously, that will not happen in isolation. The Ghana Police Service may be connected to the exercise. We're still awaiting further information on this, but we're also learning that some Ghanaians as well are being picked up in connection with the same crime. So it goes to the heart of the problem that it looks like this may never end.
Okay, Sogah. You see, we seem to be involved in a cycle. I don't know whether to call it a wild goose chase. Picking up is one thing. Ensuring proper investigation and a day in court is another thing. These individuals are picked up. They are perhaps put before the media. We see that these arrests have been made. Look, I cannot count the number of times I have seen on the news Chinese nationals picked up. But from nowhere, the whole thing just goes quiet. You don't know what happens to the suspects, whether they were duly investigated. You don't know whether they were arraigned before a magistrate. You don't know anything about it. The next minute you hear, oh, they are on their way to China. And for the Ghanaians, the same thing. It is not surprising. In some instances, people who should know better, politicians, pick up phones to call police commanders, directing them to release their boys because that mining site might have something to do with the politician. Okay, so it is not all about arrest. I mean, let's not be mistaken into thinking that arrest solve this. No, we need to follow it up to the latter. And this is a challenge to the media. If you go and report about these arrests, I think it is incumbent on the media to make follow-ups, to find out what happened to these individuals, Mr. ABC, who you arrested on this date, on these charges, what happened to the investigation. So at least we also start ensuring that the police do the right thing and not fall for some of these calls that come through. And so it is a multi-dimensional issue. Okay, it is about law, it is about enforcement, it is about community acceptance and support. It is about the work of the media. It is about commitment on the part of politicians. It is about diplomacy. Okay, so we cannot rely hook, line, and sinker on just arrest to deal with this issue. We need to deal it from its multifaceted, strand.
Okay, then.
As we do it.
Right, we need to go, but for you, what will be your final words on this and what will be your expectation from the security agencies?
I think immediately, without delay, she should be put before court. She should be made to go through the process, but I'm hoping that the government would also do it in collaboration with the Chinese embassy so it doesn't look like we are coming after Chinese citizens. Wherever you are in any part of the world, besides, she's not a diplomat, okay? Wherever you are in any part of the world, you have to obey the rules. They say if you are in Rome, you do as the Romans do. And I'm hoping it doesn't end here. More of these arrests should happen. So at least for once, we'll be doing something practical in our attempt to stem the tide of galamsey in Ghana.
Let's see what the security agencies will do. Adib Sani is a security analyst joining us on this latest that we're getting for you, that Aisha Huang, who's been arrested in connection with some galamsey activities, will bring you some updates later on. But let's talk politics now. President Akufo-Addo is also drawing public criticism for going all out to endorse his communications director, Eugene Ahi, who's seeking to run even before the official party guidelines are issued on the modalities for the presidential and parliamentary primaries. National leadership of the president's party, that's the New Patriotic Party, last month took a swipe at persons publicly pronouncing their preference for candidates. In fact, the General Secretary of the party, Justin Frimpong Kodia, issued a statement and further proceeded to indict some 2 individuals who were later hauled before the disciplinary committee of the New Patriotic Party. Thereafter, some further indications were given by the party that there was going to be a meeting amongst all the presidential candidates, plus some of the stakeholders of the party in order to resolve all these jostlings for power and the fact that it could destabilize the New Patriotic Party. So excerpts of the statement you have on your screens there, talking first of all about the concerns which the New Patriotic Party has about some issues and party faithful endorsing their preferred candidates, and portions, of course, indicates that going forward, the party intends to meet all of the presidential hopefuls and then crack the whip on persons who may not be respecting the party directives. But however, over the weekend, there's a lot that happened. President Akufo-Addo, in fact, stand all party faithful when he publicly declared support for his communications director.
I've instructed the Minister for Roads and Highways to commence work on the construction of the Akuti Junction to Senya Breku Road. As you know, one of your very own, the Director of Communications at the Presidency, Mr. Eugene Ahin, has done a very good job in lobbying persistently for this road to be constructed, just as he did for the Bodrasik-Kaswa Road. And I assure you that it will be completed before 2024. It is public knowledge that he has intentions of contesting on the ticket of the MPP in 2024. If he is successful in the MPP parliamentary primaries, and I'm confident that he will do an excellent job as Member of Parliament for you. And I appeal to all of you to support him if and when that time comes. You have seen for yourself what he's doing for Awutu Senya West. Indeed, as it is evident, as all of you can see, that when the MPP is in power, Awutu Senya West develops.
Well, ever since the comments from the president, he's been drawing a lot of backlash for breaching the party's code of conduct. Of course, we are not clear on what the president will be subjected to. This is a very controversial matter, but let's bring you some excerpts of what it is that Professor Jampo has been writing about in terms of the concerns that they have, or he has, with the decision of the president to endorse the parliamentary candidate. On Facebook, he's put up a post actually indicating what it is that the concerns what concerns it is that he has about this. And of course, the second to last paragraph indicates that I expect Justin Kodia Frimpong, the General Secretary of the party, to master some fortitude as a man who believes in fairness to summon the president, as he's indicating, before the party's complaints committee. He did this to Hobson Adoye, as being indicated, and as if no one is above the law, and the application of the law must not be selective. That's the position of political scientist Professor Ransford Jampo on this matter. He's joining us live from the University of Ghana. Thank you so much, sir, for your time here on the Pulse. So let's start off with your concerns. Exactly what are you expecting that a General Secretary of the governing party would do to the sitting president of the Republic? Yes, he may be a member of the New Patriotic Party. Some would say there's nothing really at stake for him, particularly knowing that he may not be running for another election. And of course, Professor Jampo will be getting to us shortly. Dr. Richard Amakuba is a political scientist, also with the Kwame University of Science and Technology. Doc, you are on with us. And of course, I understand you also have some concerns with the statement And you're welcome back to the poll. So let's take you back to the University of Ghana. Professor Ransford Jampo is joining us live from there on the concerns he has about the internal race of the NPP. Professor Jampo, if you can hear me now, I was just asking what more could be done to the president, knowing that he's not running for elections any longer.
Could you please amplify your voice? I can't hear you.
So I'm just asking about your exact demands and what it is that you're expecting from the national executive of the New Patriotic Party.
In terms of what? I wasn't listening to you. I'm not following what
Yes,
you're doing.
I'm talking about your post.
Exactly?
I'm talking about your post on Facebook and what it is that
Put it in the
what
proper
more
context,
you're expecting from the general secretary of the party.
Which posts? I've posted so many things and I keep posting.
You are asking the general secretary of the New Patriotic Party to hold before it some persons who have, of course, including the president himself, who's gone out to endorse the communications director of the New Patriotic Party.
Oh, well, I think what I said does not need protracted comments or discussion. All I'm saying is that I am quite disappointed that the president, who was part of his party's National Executive Committee to approve their party's code of conduct, that enjoined them, people like him and top party echelons, enjoined them to refrain from openly campaigning or declaring their support for candidates in the lead up to elections. I mean, I'm disappointed that the president was part of that meeting, has done something that is rather contrary to what is in their party's code of conduct. The point is this: their code of conduct says that you cannot declare openly support for any aspirant or anybody who wants to contest in the lead up to elections, because when there is conflict, people like him would have to be brought in the picture to help in resolving those conflicts. And then also, even beyond his own party, he's the father of the nation. And so within his party, he is supposed to be the father for all. But to meet at an event and to see other potential aspirants standing right behind you and to publicly declare support or to tacitly, openly campaign for one person in your office, in my view, creates an uneven playing field, because parliamentary primaries are yet to be contested, and there are many within the party in the constituency or in that area who may want to contest on the party's ticket. And when you say some of these things, people say it's an orphan constituency. An orphan constituency, so what? Does it mean that if you have enough orphan constituency there you don't have contests? You have to, people have to put themselves out there to contest for such elections. And so I found what the president did respectfully as lawlessness, and I'm thinking that he should be called to order. Recently, when Asifua and Hobson were found to have openly declared support for certain candidates, the general secretary of the party held them before their party's complaint committee, and I'm sure they've been cautioned. And I'm saying that to the extent that nobody is bigger than the laws of the party, I expect the general secretary to do the same, to have a committee call the president and probably to caution him, because it is not good for the internal democratic practice of the party, and you cannot have a whole president who was part of the process of preparing and approving a code of conduct openly violating that code of conduct. It makes the person look lawless. And I appeal to the president, I've said it elsewhere, that a president must not read everything that is written and presented to him, because the speech writers also have their own agenda. If you would always want to read what is written and given to you, you would end up, without discerning the agenda of those who wrote the speech, you end up advancing the interest of your speechwriters and not saying anything that effectively communicates the interest of the people who may be listening to you. And so that's why people like Jerry Rawlings, at some point in time in their public engagement, would decide to put their speech aside and say, I want to speak my gut. I want to speak from my gut. So he goes to an event and he sees the reality on the ground. He compares it to what may have been written for him. And he knows that, look, what may have been written for him may not reflect the realities. And so my point is that the president is not duty bound to read everything that is written for him.
So what's your suspicion that the president has been taken by surprise?
Agenda for preparing certain speeches. Pardon me.
You suspect that the president may have been taken by surprise?
No, I don't think he's been taken by surprise. I mean, he does that. This is not the first time. At one point in time, when university lecturers were opposed to the passage of the obnoxious Public Universities Bill, and because we felt that it was going to undermine academic freedom, the president went to UPSA at a function to cast aspersions at lecturers. And so later my people were very angry, and I calmed them down that, look, I don't think that the president that I know would really be insulting lecturers, and that the speech was written for him, and he just went to read what was presented to him. And later on, upon my investigation, I realized that actually someone wrote that speech for him, and he just went to read it. And I'm saying that if the president does not exercise that power of discernment to read in between the lines, to know which aspects of the speech that has been prepared for him promotes a certain interest, and he just goes to present the speech as has been written for him, he may end up championing interest of individuals and not interest of all. And I'm thinking that whoever wrote a speech that he went to present, where he declared support and openly campaigned for Eugene Ayen, may either be friends with Eugene Ayen, or Eugene Ayen himself had a hand in preparing that speech. I thought it was not fatherly, and then it was also a show of a certain lawlessness that should not be displayed by a president who believes in rule of law.
So who should we be going after? Eugene Ayen or the president?
No, but I've been saying this. Maybe you are not listening. I am saying that if the General Secretary deemed it fit to summon some people a couple of days ago who did something like that, then he should go ahead to summon the president, or ask the committee that met those who did something like that. I should have the same committee to call the president to order. It's as simple as that. And it must also be made known that I think when presidents have served their term of office and they are on their way out, they should appreciate the fact that they would have to exit in peace. They have to exit in a manner that keeps the unity of their party. They shouldn't break the unity of their party. But anytime, and the point must be made that anytime a president is outgoing and he decides to do things that amount to some form of imposition of candidates, this act in itself reduces the chances of those the president may want to impose on the people. And the evidence is in the history of Ghana's Fourth Republic. And so I expect Eugene Ayen himself to openly and publicly come out to politely reject the campaign that was made for him by the president, and let him be his own man and go out there to campaign. He doesn't need campaign from the president because it makes the president look lawless. And then, like I said, evidence show that any time a president has run his office and is exiting, if that president decides to sort of impose a candidate, that move itself reduces the chances of that aspirant.
How do you respond to criticisms that your call is not realistic? And by the way, many have gone on to publicly campaign for their candidates. We've seen that in the Ashanti region, plus some persons going on to radio to campaign for their candidates. So the belief is, let's open the floodgates now that the president has officially
but I'm
made
saying
the comment,
that
so that it becomes a free for all then, because that's the beauty of democracy. What do you think about that?
I don't think you are paying attention to me. I'm saying that recently, Hobson Adoye and Vincent Asifua were found to have openly campaiged for certain candidates.
And that's why I'm asking if this should be the time for the leadership of the party to just open up.
No, I don't think it's a time for the leadership of the party to open up. They have regulations. They have rules and regulations that guides how some of these things will have to be done. And so the fact that people have violated this rule and they've been cautioned does not mean that they should pander to the lawlessness of those who are violating the rules. No, I think they should stand their ground and continue to ensure that the right thing is done in a manner that creates a level playing field for all in their presidential and parliamentary contest.
And going forward, finally, what will be your projection, looking at how the president has already gone out to make some statements for the NPP's primaries? They're starting off, obviously, with a parliamentary, and then they'll be heading to the presidential. The fear is this may get worse. You believe?
It shouldn't get worse if there are elders in the party. And I'm sure the party, MPP, is a party of laws. It's a party of traditions, a party of laws. And so I don't think that the situation should be worsened. There are elders in the party, and I expect them to master the courage to be able to look into whoever runs afoul of the rules and regulation, and to tell them that we can't accept that. They have a new general secretary who appear vibrant, who looks like somebody who will really do the work. And I expect him to put his feet down to ensure that the party's rules and regulations are obeyed and respected by all, irrespective of one's status within the party.
It's early days here to be rating Justin Kondia Frimpong, but for you, do you believe this will be a true test of his leadership?
Well, clearly, like I said, I like the swiftness with which he held Asifua and Hobson before their party's complaints committee. And if he was able to do that, then what the president did is really a test of his sense of fairness and objectivity. It's a test of his determination to make sure that he deals with everybody equally and fairly. It's a test of his ability to ensure that nobody is above the rules and regulations of their party.
Professor Jampo, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for joining us here on The Pulse. On now to some other stories. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on July 12, 2019 told Parliament government had since 2017 paid as much as 263 million cedis as judgment debt. A JoyNews RTI request to the Finance Ministry places that figure since 2017 at 125 million cedis. This raises questions about the accuracy of the data the Finance Minister gave Parliament, of course, in terms of the payment of the judgment debt since 2016. Joseph Akable is with our research desk. He's been doing more work on this very thorny issue.
Be able to run away from the conclusion that this is a deliberate attempt across government to take people's money. And it's not just Wyoming. It's not just Wyoming. You look at Waterville, it is the same pattern. You look at the others, you can see a similar pattern. It cannot be inefficiency. Kweku decides to call it recklessness. It cannot be recklessness. It is deliberate. It is deliberate. It goes beyond people just being reckless.
The words of the NPP's Nana Komia on News File on the Joy News channel. This was on August 2, 2014. At the time, the NDC, led by John Dramani Mahama, had come under intense pressure to retrieve some 51.2 million cedi judgment debt from businessman Alfred Woyome. A host of other judgment debt payments had equally become the subject of heated public discussions.
B is interest on the sum from 2008.
About this.
No. Listen.
He's married to things which are not the same.
No,
I am talking about oranges. You are talking about apples. I'm talking about, because his question was that has the Supreme Court.
He's not getting the drift. Let me finish. Then you can challenge me.
You are not the one.
When I finish.
It therefore came as no surprise that the subject found expression in the NPP's 2016 manifesto. Page 134.f provided as follows.
Payments of dubious judgment debts and questionable settlements.
The party promised as follows.
The NPP will fight corruption head-on through preventive, detective, corrective and punitive actions. Our anti-corruption policy will be based on 3 key pillars: institutional reform, legislative reform, and attitudinal change or public education.
The NPP has since taken over government. JoyNews has been tracking the thorny issue of judgment debts. A right to information request was first sent to the Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. The office responded that the appropriate place to obtain this information was the Finance Ministry. A subsequent request was therefore sent to the Finance Ministry, where the information was provided. Information from the Finance Ministry reveals that government has since 2017 paid judgment debts totaling 125 million cedis. The highest judgment debt was paid in 2018. An amount of 30.9 million cedis was paid to Jubilee Tractors and Assembly Plants Limited. This arose from a case filed against the National Security Council. In 2017, an amount of 29.5 million cedis was paid NDK Financial Services. The reasons for these payments was not stated, and JoyNews has been unsuccessful in attempts to unravel it. A close comparison of the various years shows that the highest amount paid since the NPP government took over was in 2017, when payments totaled 54 million cedis. A 2021 research published by the Center for Social Justice shows that this 125 million cedi figure compares nowhere near the whopping 356.6 million cedis debt paid by the NDC administration in 2010. It, however, ranks higher when what was paid in the first 4 years of the John Mahama administration is compared to the first 4 years of the Akufo-Addo administration. A total judgment debt of 69.9 million cedis was paid by the NDC administration between 2013 and 2016. President Akufo-Addo's government between 2017 and 2020 paid 120 of the 125 million cedis judgment debts paid so far. 2.8 million cedis judgment debts have so far been paid by government this year. These figures are remarkably lower than what the Finance Minister told Parliament in July 2019. At the time, he put total judgment debts paid so far at 283 million cedis.
The government's approach is to renegotiate most of these judgment debts and ensure that we make as much savings as possible and continue to protect the public purse. For example, in one instance, we managed to save the taxpayer some 90 million Ghana cedis through renegotiations. In another instance, we negotiated a savings of 130 million on a claim of over 180 million. In total, we have had no choice but to pay as much as 42% of the outstanding, which is about 283 million cedis, which is approximately 94 million cedis yearly, due to the threat of garnishing of our accounts and the renegotiations held.
It is not clear what may have accounted for this clear discrepancy.
And representatives of the civil society groups have hit the streets of Accra as they pile pressure on the Auditor General, Johnson Ekwuamasiedu, to exercise his powers to surcharge and of course, issue some disallowance. The CSOs accuse him of blatantly refusing to use his surcharge power since 2019, even after appeals and petitions by a section of the society for him to do so. My colleague Michael Chalet engaged some of the protesters who were prevented by heavily armed security men from picketing the Auditor General's office earlier today.
It's Monday, September 5, 2022. And they are hoping to converge here and then march all the way to the Auditor General's office, where they are hoping to demand that he does his job, simply put, that he exercises constitutional mandated rights and also mandate to issue surcharge, especially given how much the country is losing with some of the infractions listed in the Auditor General's report. But this is the drama that is happening here. Most of them have been barred from entering or getting access to the children's park. this is where, again, they are supposed to converge before they move and picket at the Auditor General's office. But that is not the case here. They have been refused entry, and you can see some vehicles here. The man in the gate, the man in yellow, is refusing to give them entrance. However, the police vehicles have been given access to the place. So vehicles like this will be allowed, but if you come branded red, which is what is the attire for today, come branded in a red attire, you will definitely be refused entry here. So this is the case. Not everybody is going to be. You can see from here as well that a lot of people have now come waiting to converge here, but they've been denied access into the place.
We came this morning this is our converging points. This is where we are all converging so that we'll start the march. But we are having this difficulty with the security man here. He says he's been given instruction that we don't have the appropriate permission or whatever to converge here, so they shouldn't allow us in. Some of our colleagues are already in there. But they are even preventing them from driving their vehicles out. I mean, it's so funny. And those of us here too, they are not allowing us in. We want to know who or where that instruction or order is coming from. Because we've seen that they are being selective. They are allowing some people to enter whilst preventing others.
Can we come inside? Can we come inside? We can't?
You were in, that you went out.
So if I'm inside, you won't allow me to come out too?
I will allow you to come out.
But if I'm outside, you won't allow me to go inside?
Yes. I want to know the purpose that you are coming. Those people parking inside, they have given them a permit. Their local government, Commission on Culture, Small Arms, Auditor General, they have seek a permit from Gender Ministry. Yes, yes, to park here and to organize whatever they want to do here. But for them, authorities have told us that they don't know anything about them.
George, okay, so you just heard from George. He's supposed to be the gatekeeper here. Just tells you that orders from the Ministry for Gender, Children and Social Protection is to prevent anybody with the intent of joining the would-be citizens protest here. They are hoping to send a message to the Auditor General to enforce the laws on surcharge, particularly to save the nation millions of Ghana cedis. So you can see from the shot here that some people across this particular fence here who are inside of it, they will be allowed to come out if they wish so. But for those on the other side, outside of the children's park, they will not be allowed. I mean, that's what you've been told, right?
Yes.
That once you are inside, you can come out.
Yes.
But this is something you should have sought permission for.
Yeah, ideally, if you're going to do an event at a place you seek permission for. This is a public park. And I've been living in Accra for decades. This is the first time hearing that you need permission to go into a public park. So that's the ridiculous nature of the statement that's been sent to the security guard, because I'm wondering what the director is thinking about. Because this is a place for people to relax.
The would-be citizen protesters have started movement from the Ifo Sutherland Park, what you call the Children's Park. Currently, they are very close to the Ministry for Gender, Children and Social Protection. They are hoping to move all the way from the Children's Park to the Independence Square, where you'd have themselves present a petition to the individuals here, quite in their number, made up of a lot of CSOs. They are hoping to send a strong message to the Auditor General, who is mandated by Constitution to issue surcharge, especially involving many of the infractions that he's listed in the 2021 Auditor General's report. Let me speak to some of them, please. What's your name?
Shamima.
Great, Shamima. So, Shamima, what does this protest mean to you?
Well, it means that it's no longer enough that we lament in the comfort of our homes, our offices, about the deteriorating state of our governance. It means that a critical mass needs to mobilize, and we need to be seen, and we need to increase the visibility and let people who are in positions of power know that there's a critical mass that is growing, demanding greater accountability and proper use of the very scarce, national, resources to ensure that we are able to deliver a life of dignity for the average Ghanaian. This is all that it means to me, that we need to all come on board and say enough is enough.
Chris Atadika is former GRASAC president at the University of Ghana. Chris, why are you part of this particular protest?
I'm here because we need to act, and we need action from the Auditor General's office. Over the years, we see these reports coming, and at the end of the day, nothing is done. Recommendations are just made. People are not held accountable, and then all we see is that it becomes something that is just in the news for some days, and then that's it. What we are here to seek is to call on the government, to call on the Auditor General's office to act on the recommendations, not just give out the report and that's it. Yeah, so that's.
Thank you very much, Chris. So let's meet some more people. There's Adam Senano. If you've been watching TV, he's one of the people on the front burner asking for accountability, especially for the Auditor General to issue surcharges. Adam Senano, do you think that this protest is going to yield any result? You've gone to court. A court is ruled in the favor of issue a surcharge, but it doesn't seem that the Auditor General has done that. You think that this protest will yield any different result?
Yes, we do. Actually, the Auditor General reached out to us last week. They indicate that, look, they've done substantive work to start the process. I think that he himself needs this so that any influences that are trying to restrict him from proceeding quickly to retrieve the money, he can have the confidence that the citizens of this country will support him. So we are believing it will, because really there's no sense in going to the IMF when in 1 year what the irregularities amount to is more than what we are going to the IMF for. So what's the logic? 17 billion in 2021, and you're going to the IMF for about 16 billion. It doesn't make sense. We should make sure that the Auditor General retrieves all those monies, and indeed, we should even empower him to have a premium on it. People who have intentionally taken monies away, not retrieved them, we should make sure that they pay a penalty, a premium on it, a certain percentage, maybe 200% of it. The Constitution has said that the Auditor General must take an action of surcharging and disallowing. It is only the citizens who can defend the Constitution. So if we don't stand up and do that, then we have failed Ghana.
If it's taking him 1 year to issue just one surcharge, do you think that this protest will let him issue more?
Oh, absolutely. Because you see, when you are silent, they say a thriving democracy depends on citizens' vigilance. So we cannot be silent. In fact, it is why the Constitution says that we must defend the Constitution, Article 41. So it is important that citizens, civil society, media, we work together to remind him. Meanwhile, don't forget that when you fail to obey what the Supreme Court ruling says, you can be taken to court and you can be jailed for that. So again, he's moving us to a point where we will be forced to go back to court to cite him of contempt of the Supreme Court, which then will lead to sanctions on him. So it's not just we are giving him a red flag. This is a red flag.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Adam Senano. So Adam Senano is one of the people on the forerunner demanding that the Auditor General does exactly what he has to do per the Constitution. Kofi Asare, he's with the Africa Education Watch, a coalition fighting within the space of education. I'll speak to him shortly. Mr. Asare, if you could join me pretty shortly. So Mr. Asare here has been talking a lot about infractions within the educational space here. Mr. Asare, if you look at the report within the education space, how much are we talking about that has been, cited for mismanagement?
In 2020 alone, more than 80 million Ghana cedis of funds in the education sector was a subject of misapplication and irregularities. In the previous year, it was even higher. The point is that we can't continue pouring water in a leaking basket. If we really aim to provide quality basic education and secondary education for every Ghanaian child, we need to first guard the little resources we have and ensure that they are judiciously utilized, equitably deployed. Now, here is the case where persons who are responsible, cited in successive Auditor General's reports for being responsible for the misapplication of education money, are not held responsible. So why is the Auditor General developing the reports? Why is he producing the reports? Hold the persons responsible for the financial irregularities to account. And those that must refund to the state, let them refund to the state. If I know that if I'm supplying government funds, whether I'm a school manager, I'm an education director, any organization or public office I find myself in, if I know that if I'm supplying government funds in the district I find myself in, I may be asked to refund the money, I will think twice when managing the taxpayers' money. It's the taxpayers' money we are talking about, and that is why we are passionate.
Otherwise, these funds, shortly, if they are recovered, what would it mean for the educational space?
If the 18 billion Ghana cedis and over that went into financial irregularities, okay, if that fund was available today, it will be able to build at least 160 primary schools. Let me tell you one thing. There are 5,000 schools today taking place under trees in Ghana. And there are 4,000 primary schools that do not have a junior high school.
Mr. Lawrence Ayagiba, Deputy Auditor General, in charge of performance and special audits at the Audit Service. Mr. Ayagiba is here this afternoon on behalf of the Auditor General and the management of Ghana Audit Service to receive the petition from the citizens of Ghana. So we'll hear Mr. Ayagiba.
Thank you very much for your petition. I acknowledge receipt of this petition on behalf of the Auditor General and the Audit Service. You know, I want to thank you for coming and the peaceful manner in which you have exhibited this demonstration. We want to assure you that we as Ghana Audit Service acknowledge and in fact agree to all what you are doing. We have a common goal that we need to fight to make sure that every city is accounted for. Exactly. That is why we have actually exposed and publicized our reports. We have agreed with management for another meeting somewhere on Friday where we'll sit down and agree on the way forward. So on behalf of the Auditor General and on behalf of every Ghanaian, I want to thank you for drawing our attention to this and to assure you that all the concerns that you have raised will be addressed.
The coalition tells JoyNews that they've managed to secure a meeting between themselves as CSOs and the Office of the Attorney General where they'll be discussing the way forward. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
Okay, then let's get more on this. Mensa Thompson is the Executive Director for the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, joining us now. Mensa, thank you for your time. But, of course, there's some assurance coming through from the Auditor General's office. Gives us a sense that something may be done in the coming days, right? You have hopes?
Well, thank you very much. A very good afternoon to your cherished viewers. I want to say on record that we, as the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, is not associated with the protest at the Auditor General Department today because we believe that that protest was misplaced. The energy and the pressure was purely and truly misapplied towards the wrong outfit. If those who are protesting, the CSOs who are protesting, truly want things to be done, truly want some drastic action to be taken in respect of the Auditor General's report, they know that the best place to seek that and the best place to protest is at the Attorney General's Department, who has been given the powers of state to initiate criminal prosecution against anybody who has engaged in any financial misappropriation.
But Mensa, it's not as though, the Auditor General is helpless in this case. We've seen the likes of Daniel Yadomelevo. He's gone ahead to issue some surcharge, and the notable one amongst them against the senior minister of the Republic. It tells you the extent of power one who occupies the office of the Auditor General has.
Yes, but it is purely administrative power. And that's why even after the former Auditor General surcharged the senior minister was able to go to court to set it aside. So it is purely an administrative power. If we really want punitive sanction against people who have mismanaged or misapplied resources of the state, what stops the Attorney General from taking the Auditor General's report and giving it to, let's say, the Office of the Special Prosecutor to do further inquiry into it and initiate criminal prosecution against anybody who has been caught in these financial irregularities?
Okay, let me ask a question. Between retrieving funds and criminally prosecuting someone for embezzling state funds, where would you want the priority to be? At least let's get the cash first of all, and then we could proceed with the prosecutions.
And who said the two cannot happen concurrently? And who said the court cannot provide both remedies?
Yes, so the place to start from could be the Office of the Auditor General, you agree?
No, you see, the Auditor General's job is purely to audit and find out what the irregularities are and make recommendations. Those recommendations could be refund. Those recommendations could be surcharged. But that does not take away criminal liability. If you go and steal something from the market right now, the law does not say because you've brought it back, we should let you go scot-free. Attempted murder, attempted to steal, attempted to kill, they are all part of crime. And so the point I'm making is that if we have pressure to mount on any institution, we should go straight for the kill. I mean, what the CSOs are doing, with due respect to them, picketing at the Auditor General to issue or to exercise administrative power, and leaving away the Attorney General, leaving away the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, who are the people who are supposed to, do further verification of the work of the Auditor General and ensure that the people who engage in these irregularities make recommendations for certain action to be taken by them. And if you ask me, as a public accountability expert, I think that financial irregularities from the Auditor General's report have moved from 2.5 billion in 2017 to about 12.5 billion in 2020 and 17.4 billion in 2021.
That's where we are now.
Of the inaction of the Attorney General and the redundancy of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. These two institutions are the people who are not doing their job well. And so, of course, we could blame the Auditor General for failing to issue surcharge, but that does not stop the criminal liability. The Attorney General can take up that report. The Special Prosecutor can take up this report and say, look, you have involved in this ABCD, and based on the Auditor General's report, we're initiating criminal prosecution against you. What are we waiting for? Why? I mean, does it have to take the Auditor General to surcharge people before we can initiate criminal action against them?
Anyway, I recall when the Auditor General, for the previous one, Yao Domelevo, of course, went after the senior minister. You were part of the civil society organizations lauding Daniel Yao Domelevo for taking such a bold initiative. We've not seen anything close to that. And in fact, looking at how much was saved by the previous Auditor General, it earned him some awards, including the Ghana Integrity Initiative's Public Citizen of the Year at the time. And the expectation is that this new boss will continue. That's not happening. So at least he has some opportunity to save some funds for the state, right?
Yes, blessed. And we are not saying that if people need to be surcharged, they shouldn't be surcharged by the Auditor General. That's not our argument. And we are not saying that the Auditor General should not perform his function required under the law if there are those functions to be required. But we must look at the whole thing holistically and look at the audit process. The law requires the Auditor General to go and audit how the MMDAs apply the resources of the state given to them. They may unearth irregularities. When they unearth irregularities, based on that, they can make recommendations for certain action to be taken. The Auditor General have failed to make those recommendations. But then there's a Public Accounts Committee who will then have to go further, based on the recommendation of the Auditor General, to even probe the matter further and issue a report. What is the recommendation of the Public Accounts Committee? When the Public Accounts Committee issue recommendations, what happened? Whose responsibility to ensure that the recommendations of the Public Accounts Committee are followed through to the latter? The Constitution has put such powers in the hands of the Attorney General. That for criminal prosecution, for any criminal liability, the initiation must come from the Attorney General's department. The Attorney General, some of those powers have been given to entities like YOCO, like CID, like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, to also initiate criminal prosecutions at the expediency of the Attorney General. But the point is, all these institutions are there, and you say because the Auditor General has failed to issue surcharge, you've gone there to pick it. But I'm saying, why don't you go to the Attorney General and put pressure on the Attorney General?
But the indication we're getting, I recall speaking to Murtala Mohammed, a member of the Public Accounts Committee. There's the issue about the backlog and the target by the Public Accounts Committee to clear the 2020-2021 by end of this year. So any closest chance to getting the Auditor General to answer for some of these concerns, 17.4 billion, right? The figure in terms of the irregularities. Looking at that amount and getting the Auditor General to comment on, the Attorney General to comment on what may be done could only happen next year when the committee completes its work. So it appears that your demands to have the Auditor General comment on these matters may not happen anytime soon, at least if we are going by the timelines of Parliament.
Blessed, hold on. You see, these people are not picketing based on the 2021 audit report, which has been released this year. They are picketing because previous reports that were issued, that have gone through the process of PAC, recommendations have been made, have not been followed suit, and people have not been, actions have not been taken against anybody or the people who were involved in those irregularities. And that is why they are picketing. And so 2019 Auditor General's report, 2018 Auditor General's report, 2020 Auditor General's report, those who were at the center of the irregularities. What action has the Attorney General taken against
Tell me briefly about this. What's your expectation from the Attorney General going forward?
Our expectation is simple. The same way the police can hear that a crime has been committed and move in to arrest people. As the legal attorney of the state, when you realize that people have committed crimes against the state, by engaging in the irregularities, financial malfeasance, misappropriation, take the Auditor General's report, give it to your investigators, let them see if there are prima facie evidence to prosecute these individuals, and do prosecution. The Attorney General can even go into, they're introducing the plea bargaining bill and what have you, but there are other arrangements the Attorney General can go in. The court can even grant a remedy of refund. The court can say, refund this amount of money, or spend this amount of time in jail, or do this. All those remedies can be granted by the court. So I'm saying that the CSO's pressure is misdirected. They are aiming and shooting at the wrong target.
All right, then.
They should go to the Attorney General's department and put pressure on the Attorney General to initiate criminal prosecution against these individuals at the center of the financial irregularities.
Let's see about that. They've started. I'm sure that the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability will take that up in the coming days. But I'm grateful for your time, Mensa Thompson, Executive Director for ASEPA. Ghana has been hit by exogenous shock and not bad policies. That's the opinion of the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Christina Georgieva, as she hints the IMF is determined to reach an agreement with Ghana by the end of the year. Well, Ghana, as we know, is seeking some $3 billion from the IMF to turn its fortunes around. But Georgieva said the amount is yet to be decided on. She's been speaking to my colleague Benjamin Akampo on the sidelines of the first ever Africa Adaptation Summit in Rotterdam, Netherlands.
So we now have Kristalina Georgieva, head of the IMF. Thank you so much for joining us. Two quick questions. One, what are your expectations ahead of the summit? The West has always promised we will do, they've never done. And secondly, Ghana is hoping for an IMF program at the start of next year. How close are we?
To your first question, I speak on behalf of my institution, the International Monetary Fund. Promises we make, we keep. We made a promise to mobilize resilience and sustainability trust and start with at least 40 billion. We have delivered on this promise, and among the first countries to be beneficiaries will be African countries. And I would call on everyone recognize that it is a promise you must meet for your own people. Climate change is hitting everybody everywhere, and it is undermining global security. To your second question, I am very determined for us to indeed reach an agreement by the end of this year. We started very constructive discussions already, and to the people of Ghana, like everybody on this planet, you have been hurt by exogenous shocks. First the pandemic, then Russia's war in Ukraine. And that we need to realize is not because of bad policies in the country, but because of this combination of shocks. And therefore, we have to support Ghana because you're a member, you're a strong country, you have fantastic people, but also we have to support Ghana because your strength contributes to the strength of your neighbors. It contributes to a stronger world.
We asked for 1.5 billion initially. Now they're asking for 3 billion. Will we get it?
Let's go through the discussions and then we will know.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.
So let's see what then happens in the coming days. Back here in Ghana, policy think tank Imani Africa is lashing out at government and its plans to roll out a number of punitive measures against persons who are yet to register their SIM cards ahead of the deadline, which is the end of this month. According to the National Communications Authority, outgoing calls and data services for such persons will be blocked for 2 days every week. However, Vice President in charge of strategy at Imani Africa, Salon Branti, says giving the number that a number of Ghanaians are still yet to have their Ghana card, a decision to block their calls is draconian.
So for some of us, this whole process is being rushed unnecessarily. The issue here is that we are behaving as if the Ghana card is something that is issued instantly. You are talking about a very seismic change in the way we are going to be registering our SIM cards. For any process that is planned in this way, one of the first things that we look at is what we call dependencies. Now, we are in a situation where the major dependency for registering a SIM card or re-registering a SIM card under this new mandate is a Ghana card. It is not a given. Those processing their Ghana cards can get it instantly. I'll tell you something. Somewhere in May, I wanted to get a new Ghana card because the original one I had got missing. When I went, right in front of me, there were many people who were given appointment dates of September 24th to come for their data to be captured. Note, this is not for them to come for their cards. As of May, they were supposed to come September 24th for their data to be captured. So there are people who, by first principles, cannot even continue their stage one. And you are going to say that because of a totally different process, they are going to be disenfranchised. And I think this is draconian. And this is not the right way to run a national program. I am sorry, but we are being very recalcitrant and pig-headed with this kind of.
Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Telecommunications, Dr. Ken Ashigbe, has urged government to fix the challenges with accessing the Ghana card. He says it is not in the interest of the telcos to disconnect any SIM card.
Not in the interest of us to make sure that even one person, loses his one genuine person loses his card. Okay. You should bear in mind, as many people who would lose, their numbers. That would mean CST revenue that will be lost. As many people who would e-levy that also potentially could be lost. So there are implications for even, our fiscal policy and all of that. So I agree that we need to continue talking. What we would hope is that the conversation between the NIA and the NTA would be able to resolve a lot of the issues around those who do not have their Ghana cards, so that, they would get their Ghana cards to be able to do the registration. Definitely, if I have done everything and I don't have my Ghana card, that it would be unfortunate to lose my number. And I'm not too sure the policymakers' interest is to make even one single person lose their.
And reacting to this development, the executive director for the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima, says the NCA and the Ministry of Communication has no right to deny anyone access to his or her SIM card.
Well, I think in terms of the time that was given, one would say it's been quite a considerable period of time that was provided for the registration in terms of the extensions that have been given over the period. However, what happens if someone has still not been able to secure his or her Ghana card, which is a prerequisite for the SIM card registration? The last time I heard, it was almost as though the various state institutions whose conduct or whose work is related to the SIM card registration did not care about whether or not the other side was functioning. In other words, the NCA, the Ministry of Communications, were sending signals that suggested that, well, as far as they were concerned, their job is to get the SIM cards registered. Whether or not you have your Ghana card is your own business. Then the NCA Chief Executive Officer was also making the point that, well, his mandate, he's not under the command and control of the Ministry of Communications, and therefore they're also doing their best to ensure that people get their cards. At this stage, I don't think that whatever the issues are at the NCA, at the authority that is mandated to provide the Ghana cards have been resolved yet. And to that extent, it would be quite it would be quite inappropriate for the NCA and the ministry to say, well, whether you have your Ghana card or not, we are going ahead to do that to ensure that the punitive sanctions are in place. And so they need to really, really ensure that, look, everyone has a Ghana card. And so if somebody has not registered their SIM card, then it's just a personal decision not to register. And therefore, the person will be ready to bear the consequences. But to say that, well, we don't care, we are not the ones providing the Ghana card, and whether you have your Ghana card or not, it's not our business, and we'll go ahead and implement it. It's quite obnoxious, and that shouldn't happen.
So if I get you, the NCA should not go ahead with their intended plan because it's not everybody that has the Ghana card. At what point in time should this end so that we'll see that the process has ended for all of us to get our SIM cards registered?
Well, the point is that because the registration is contingent on one having his or her Ghana card, if we have a situation where, based on the national adult population, the people who are eligible to have Ghana cards, and we have a population of about, let's say, 1.5 or 2 million people still not having had their Ghana card through no fault of theirs, because I have friends who have gone to the offices, the head offices of the Ghana card, the NIA, and they are told to either come back in October or to come back in 3 weeks' time, and all manner of different excuses have been given. So for such people who have not gotten their Ghana card, how do you punish them for not being able to register their SIM cards?
Earlier today, I caught up with the Executive Director of Stranek Ni, who indicated that there are more problems facing the SIM card registration, including the self-registration app. Listen.
The point that I have stated is that this letter, Stranek Africa, we have read the communique that they have distributed to telecommunications about this blocking of SIM card once it's not registered over that. And we clearly think that it is harsh, because this is a matter that we know that the sole requirement for registering your SIM card is to have a Ghana card. Ghana card is produced by the National Identification Authority. If the National Identification Authority does not give you the Ghana card, you cannot register a SIM card. Can we say that the National Identification Authority has issued all Ghana cards to Ghanaians, and that Ghanaians are lackadaisical in registering their SIM card, or it is the fact that the National Identification Authority does not have enough materials to produce Ghana card, and so there is some slow pace in issue Ghana card to enable Ghanaians to register the SIM card. And so it is totally harsh for the National Communication Authority, together with the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, to decide to treat Ghanaians in a very bad manner, when they could rather put pressure on the National Identification Authority to expedite action in issuing cards so that Ghanaians can use that to register. I don't clearly think that Ghanaians don't want to register a SIM card. It is because of the frustration at the National Identification Authority, and that getting a Ghana card is so difficult and it's not going to have it easy. And so once they're not going to have it easy, that is why you find them not having a chance to register. And so I clearly think that the National Communication Authority, together with the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, have gone too far in trying to impose such hardship if it is not done by close of this month. I clearly think that they should hasten slowly. These punitive measures will not help at all. It's actually going to even affect the telecommunications as well, because look, some Ghanaians are actually unperturbed about the fact that their SIM cards will be blocked, because all the same, they themselves been praying that their SIM card is blocked so that they go and buy a new one. Because how much is SIM card? 1 CD, 2 CD, and then you actually want to block them. Those subscribers are not going to be at a disadvantage. It's all going to heavily affect telecommunications in the long run, because yes, people are sick and tired of all these deadlines and punitive measures. I clearly think the government should stay slowly. Let them rather put pressure on the National Identification Authority to ensure that the Ghana card is made available to everyone. Then we can talk about deadlines. Then we can say that yes, you have a Ghana card, but you are refusing to register, so we'll punish you for that. Besides, even this issue about doing self-service registration, per our microscopic check, we realize that even that one, the data is being given to a private entity, Excel Limited, and they are a UK registered company. So it is the data that we are registering through this even app to expedite action. When people are done with stage 1, they are left to stage 2. Our data is being sold like tabletop tomato business to a private entity when it's supposed to be in the hands of government agency. So a whole private entity registered in the UK is going to have our data once you register from that app. I clearly think that is a pure breach of data protection, and I don't expect that government should do that. And so you see, there are a lot of issues regarding this SIM card registration, and I clearly think that we as Sonic Africa, this should not be something we tell government to proceed. They should just take it easy, spend enough time and resources that they want to use to block numbers and do all those punitive measures, implement all those punitive measures. They should channel those resources to National Identification Authority so that those resources can be used to expedite action and ensure that everybody has the Ghana card. Once the Ghana card, every Ghanaian has the Ghana card, National Identification Authority can even decide that, well, the data in the Ghana card that people have given to National Identification Authority, they can just transfer it straight into their details, and that'll be it. But it looks like they have some ulterior motive. And that's why they are giving deadlines in a very harsh manner and providing punitive measures when we all know that Ghana card cannot be produced via magic. We cannot conquer Ghana card. It's a government agency that has to do that for us. And we all know our government agencies, if there's no resources, they can't do anything. And so we as Sonic Africa, we will plead the government. They should take it easy. That deadline will not help matters. It's going to affect telecommunications. It's going to affect government as a whole because your revenue will not be raised. It may affect Ghanaians, but it may not affect Ghanaians as a whole. Because yes, what are they going to do? They cannot force NIA to produce. It is these two government agencies that must sit down and find a way of making sure that subscribers do not be at a disadvantage, not by their fault, not because not per their fault, but because their lack of resources or the National Identification Authority has not completed the issue of Ghana card. And I think that this is something that they should do at all. And so we expect that, well, as it said in the Bible, it's only a fool that has not changed his mind. I clearly believe, and I hope, and we pray that the National Communication Authority will change their mind before the end of September. regarding that communication they gave, because it is not going to go anywhere. It is not going to go anywhere at all. Well, we would wait and see whether National Communication Authority will listen to the voice of the people. Sonic Africa will also represent the voice of the people. I know a couple of civil society organizations and even private individuals who also raise the same concern. Once they fail to listen, I'm sure we would advise ourselves and know the way forward. But for now, we don't want to engage in premature judgment.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll be back shortly. Now to the Ashanti region. Police in Kumasi has launched investigations into circumstances that led to the death of Municipal Chief Executive for Karachi East in the Oti region, Francis Kofi Okesu. Police found him lying dead in some position on the bed, naked, with his left arm hanging beside the bed on Sunday in his hotel room in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi. On your screens now is a copy of a statement released on this matter, clearly pointing out that the Ashanti Regional Police Command is investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of Honorable Francis Kofi Okesu, the Municipal Chief Executive Officer for Karachi East Municipal Assembly. Investigations have so far established that Honorable Francis Kofi, accompanied by his driver, checked in at the Hub House Hotel, Kumasi, on the 2nd of September 2022. The MCE, however, not seen on the 4th of September 2022, and all efforts made by both his driver and the hotel authority to reach him on his cell phone proved unsuccessful. His door was therefore forced open and he was found lying motionless on his bed. He was later pronounced dead by a medical officer from the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital. The body of the deceased MCE has been deposited at the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital morgue for preservation and autopsy while investigations continue. Well, there have been numerous reactions from his municipality. Here are some residents.
Honestly, all of us are still in a state of shock. We heard of the news yesterday around 8 o'clock p.m. that the Honorable Municipal Chief Executive for the Karachi East constituency has passed on in his hotel room at Kumasi. We didn't believe it when we heard it. For me, when I heard it, I didn't believe it. But later, the news broke that truly Mr. Okesu, Honorable Okesu, has passed on. And as of this morning, we are all still in a state of shock. So we are putting things together so that we rush to his home and say our deepest condolences to his family. He was an honorable young guy who has a very promising future. His relationship with the people in the constituency was awesome. So we are really, really, really sad, especially those of us in Dambai. We are very, very sad, my brother.
My name is Osborne Asari, a native of Dambai. I'm still in a shock. I still can't believe after I heard that the DC or the MC of Karachi East constituency has died this morning. In fact, I'm wet this morning. I'm so sad about such news. May his soul rest in peace.
Indeed, a very touching one there, but we also do know that the MC was also the Dean of MMDCs in the OT region, and some of his colleagues have also been sharing their memories of it.
Honorable Francis Kofi Okesu was my dean. The dean of MDCs in the OT region. Since coming into office and getting to know him, he has been a very good friend, very sociable, dedicated, hardworking, and a committed patriot. In fact, his demise is a very great blow to the people of Karachi East and the entire OT region. Whatever he sets for himself to do, he does it with all the commitment that is necessary. Very friendly with everybody. And in fact, It's a great loss. He's somebody most of the youth look up as one of the promising future leaders of our region. Unfortunately, death had to take him away so soon. All we say is, may he rest in the bosom of the good Lord, the Almighty Father, until we meet again.
And imagine having to live your entire life differently as a result of ailments that could have been easily treated but wasn't because of ignorance and financial problems. Well, you probably might have heard of similar tragic stories, but this is an incredibly heartbreaking story of a 25-year-old university student who has been suffering from rheumatism, a joint disease. Over time, his condition was worsened to at the point that he's completely been disabled. Jesse Boafo has the story of Bismarck Ofori Opoku.
Bismarck Ofori Opoku, a level 300 student of the Kibi Presbyterian College of Education, was diagnosed with rheumatism at a very tender age at the Dunkwa Ofin Government Hospital in the Central Region.
My name is Ofori Bismarck Opoku. I'm 25 years of age, a student of KB Presbyterian College of Education in level 300. It all started when I was a kid. I can't recall the exact age, but I was in class 4. I have rheumatism.
While he was in class 4, he visited the said hospital again on an account of a rheumatic episode, and he was injected on the right buttock. After a fortnight, he started feeling pain in his right hip, and this time, his mother rather resorted to rubbing a balm on the affected area, which subsidized the pain, but left him limping on his right leg after a month.
So I went to the hospital and I was given injection on my right leg. So after 2 weeks, I started feeling some pain at my hip. So I complained to my mom. Then we did not go back to the hospital again. We just applied some balm on it. So later the pain stopped. From there, about 1 month, I started limping on the right leg.
The excruciating pain in Bismarck's right hip has completely immobilized him. The agony and the depression make Bismarck dread going through the night.
I barely get enough sleep because of my brother's condition. He's unable to do anything by himself. We are humbly appealing to everyone to come to our aid.
Indeed, no human deserves to go through such ordeal, he says.
People always look at you differently because you are different from them. Sometimes they will be giving you names, even at college. I had to cope with the names and all that. But you can't beat them. You just have to be silent or whatever that you can say. You just say it and you go your way.
His family took him to the St. Joseph Hospital in Koforidua, where the news about a total hip replacement costing 34,000 cedis was broken to them.
They said he would need a surgery, which cost 34,000. But my entire pension pay is even no match to the said amount.
True charity is the desire to be useful to others with no thought of recompense. That's according to Emmanuel Swedenborg. Bismarck is in need of your help, your support. For JoyNews, Jesse Boafo's report, read to you.
Very touching one there, and feel free to be a part of the good cause, support Bismarck, and by reaching out to JoyNews, we'll definitely be partnering you on that. But that's all we have for you here on the Pulse on the JoyNews channel. I'm Blessed Sogah. Do log on to myjoyonline.com. We have more updates for you.